Where did you take inspiration from? Because the movie has like a Bollywood vibe, so how was it?
I think once we made up our mind that we will make this film as entertaining as we possibly could, it was inevitable that it seems like there is a Bollywood influence. In fact, it wasn't conspicuously influenced by Bollywood, but there's been enough people that have subsequently said that it looks like it is influenced by Bollywood. But I think that's just honestly the amount of dancers that we used, and there's just an association that once you use more than 100 dancers, then you drift into the world of Bollywood.
And there is a scene in the original version with Jasmine chained and wearing red, very impressive scene that is not in this version. So how was that process of remaking the ending and sending this female empowerment message?
Well, there were two principal challenges in this film. One was dealing with Will Smith and not treading on the toes of Robin Williams, and the other one was how to augment this narrative by addition rather than subtraction. So it felt inevitable that we've moved on since 1992, and animation can take broader strokes that certainly in that period that live action can't do. So there needs to be an evolution in terms of the character that represents a contemporary audience, so an audience can relate to it. So the principal character that could use some development, I suppose, was Jasmine, and it just felt pertinent that we should embellish and refine the facets on her character to represent a contemporary issues, if you will.
And was there any scene that you were especially worried about or was more challenging than others?
Yeah, the two challenging things was to make sure that our genie didn't occupy the space that Robin had occupied previously. And the next thing was making it accessible to a contemporary audience. Arguably, all the other stuff, the broad entertainment, that comes quite easily. It's the nuances, it's the details that you have to be careful with.
And the original version has lots of iconic sequences. So which one were you most excited about remaking?
I'm afraid I don't have a hierarchy in scenes I prefer or don't. As a filmmaker, I found myself, you're as concerned about the smaller scenes as you are about the bigger scenes. And if anything, if I was going to lend my favoritism to anything, it would always be the smaller scenes, funnily enough. I very much like and appreciate the connection between and the relationship between Aladdin and Jasmine, for example. And that's usually in the smaller department, so that's probably where my preference lies.
And also, it was your first time making a musical, so how was it for you?
Well, it's the first time I'm making a traditional musical. All my films have previously been heavily influenced by music, so the first things I ever made on film were music videos. So I came from a music video background, so I have to tell you, it was not unfamiliar territory. So I didn't find that too challenging or intimidating. I felt pretty confident that I could infuse and fuse that into a narrative. In fact, I could be more predisposed to making traditional musicals and traditional action films.
And also the casting process was very difficult because it's difficult to find such an iconic character. So how was it for you, the casting process?
Casting was tremendously broad. I think it was the biggest, certainly the biggest in my experience, but I think it's the biggest and broadest casting net that has been cast by the Disney Corporation in order to find the correct chemistry between Aladdin and Jasmine. So it was broad and comprehensive.